Hi there, I'm Peggy Farah. I'm an Edmonds area psychotherapist, and I'm also the facilitator of the Thrive program at Harbor Square. And I want to share with you today on this video the topic that we discussed at the Thrive program in April, because I think it's a very universal topic, and I'm hoping that there will be something in here that you can apply to your life and a few strategies that can help you out. So, what we talked about as a group at Thrive in April was the concept of overcoming fear. And this might seem like, wow, that's a big, heavy topic to talk about on a Monday afternoon at a health club. But what I want you to think about is that fear is the broad category for a whole family of emotions. And what comes into this family are emotions like worry, anxiety, stress. And who doesn't encounter that multiple times a day? We all do. But the problem with having too much stress, too much anxiety, too much fear in our life is that it really pulls us away from the present moment. And it's very hard to be living the way we want to be living if we become overcome by it. So I want to offer a few strategies and a new way to think about this whole family of emotions called fear that can hopefully help you triumph over it a little bit in your own life. So first of all, recognize this is absolutely universal. Definitely, some of us struggle more with anxiety than others, but there isn't a single human being on the planet who doesn't have the experience of fear or stress or worry, probably on a daily basis. So it's universal. I also want to share with you the function of fear because it's interesting to think about, why do we have this? Why do we create all these thoughts about something that might happen? And that's what fear is. Every level of stress, every level of anxiety is always about the future. There is something that we're worried will happen. So it's always future oriented. So why do we do this as human beings? Why do we place our thoughts in the future about something that might or might not happen and create this really uncomfortable feeling in ourselves? Well, the function of fear is protection. And so on the micro level, when you look at your daily stresses, maybe your stress about being late for a meeting or a financial stress or something that's coming up in your daily life, it's also about protection. At the end of the day, we all just want to feel and be safe. That includes being physically safe, but also being emotionally safe. And so we have our worries, our anxiety, our fears, because we want to stay emotionally safe. We want to feel good. And so I think we unconsciously believe if we can think through what might happen, we can somehow prevent it or guard ourselves against the negative feelings that might come. So it's helpful to just understand what we're doing, what we're unconsciously doing when we're anchoring our mind in fear about something that might happen. So the other thing is, most of the time we are not at any kind of physical risk. The majority of fears that we have relate to fear of emotion, actually. And I'm going to explain how this works because it might not seem obvious on the first blush. But the main fears that we have are categories like fear of failure. And what's that really about? Oftentimes it's about shame. It's about what will people think of me, or how will I feel about myself? I don't want to feel ashamed of myself. So fear of failure is a big one. Fear of judgment, that's a huge one. That's also related to shame. People who don't like public speaking or who have difficulty in social environments, which we all do from time to time. That's about what if the other people don't accept me, or what if they have a negative impression of me. So again, it's that I don't want to feel that feeling of shame if somebody outside of me is judging me. Then there's fears around loneliness, and that gets at sadness. So much of the time, what's going on for us is that we are trying to avoid an uncomfortable emotion. And so this is where we get to a concept that we talk about in therapy called distress tolerance. So building up our individual capacity to tolerate discomfort. And part of that discomfort is emotional discomfort. And this is where mindfulness comes in that I teach in the Thrive class, is when we can be mindful and really observe what's going on in us, what feeling is coming up in us. We can get to know our feelings a little bit better, which builds up our capacity to be able to tolerate them. And the more that you can tolerate uncomfortable feelings, the less afraid you need to be of that eventuality. Okay? The last piece has to do with our human propensity to catastrophize. So we take something that might even just be, small, and we blow it out of proportion in our mind. And we can then think about everything that might go wrong and really spin into this possibility and that possibility that really makes it just huge and out of proportion. And then our thoughts get centered on what might go wrong, and we forget about all the other possibilities. So, what else might happen? What could go right? What are some other alternatives? So, that can be very helpful too in your thinking. A trick I like to use comes out of a coach named Martha Beck, who asks the question, what's the worst thing about that? And then keep asking the question. So, how this works is, let's say the thought is, if I go to that fitness class and I don't feel in shape for it, I might be embarrassed. And then you ask yourself, well, what's the worst thing about that? Well, people might look at me and laugh at me. Okay, then ask the question again. Well, what's the worst thing about that? Well, then they'll think less of me and I'll feel bad about myself. Well, what's the worst thing about that? I don't like that feeling of feeling bad about myself. Okay, so here we are. We're back to your own ability to tolerate discomfort. Okay, so just a few little tips and tricks to think about fear. Fear is always in the future. So the more you can anchor into the present moment, you're not going to be in fear. That's where, again, mindfulness comes in. So asking yourself when you're caught up in a spiral of anxiety or stress or just perseverating on something, just ask yourself, am I all right now? And then look around you, and most of the time, like now, I'm in a warm, dry office, and yes, I'm all right. So am I all right now? Yes, I'm all right now. Then what's the worst thing about that when you're stressing about something? To help yourself get to the bottom of it. What's this fear really about? What is the worst thing? What am I really centered on? And then you can say to yourself, okay, it's actually shame or it's actually loneliness, and help yourself build up that distress to be able to sit with those universal emotions that really there's no way to escape. Okay, hopefully that was helpful for you. Come check out Thrive in May. It's going to be a completely different topic. It's not always going to be centered around negative emotions. We might have a topic on cultivating joy or playfulness, but it will always be a topic that's universal to all people, and it will give you a chance to reflect on the topic and to discuss it, as well as learn guided meditation and mindfulness. Okay, so check that out at harborsquare.com or deepercravings.com. Thanks so much. Bye.